Nick Fisher, President CEO, Arizona Archery Enterprises. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Man, thanks for coming in to TOPO Talk. We just missed you last year, getting you at the first show. You're based right here in Prescott Valley, the world's largest manufacturer of nocks and vanes, amongst other things. I forgot, you said you had over 11,000 SKUs in your inventory. For people that don't know what a SKU is, that's a shopkeeper unit or product. So these guys have over 11,000 products in their lineup. You can check them out at arizonaarchery.com. Super excited to have you in here. I know that this is going to be your first year of 2023 at the Prescott Valley Outdoor Summit. Tell us a little bit about exactly who you guys are for the people that don't know who you are.
And kind of what we say is archery is who we are. Injection molding is what we do. Our business is coming up on we're in our 52nd year of business.
Awesome.
I'm third generation owner, and archery is our backbone. It's the face of the company. It's what everybody knows us as. We're the largest archery accessory company in the United States. But we also do a ton of other stuff. There isn't hardly a market we don't touch with the injection molding side of things, whether it's cell phones, automotive, medical, aerospace, home goods, architectural. We like to make things, and in the molding side, the plastics world, if we can make it, we want to do it. So that's kind of the basics of what we do. We've been here in Prescott Valley since 1977.
Wow.
My grandparents bought the company originally in 1971 from Max and Joel Hamilton, which they were the originators of the production level plastic vane. And they were 71. My family, my grandparents, and my dad and my uncle were still down in Apache Junction. And they moved up here, again, 1977 to the same location we're at now. And we just expanded from there. We got into injection molding in the early 80s and then found out right away that injection molding had a lot of application. So expanded that. My dad, my uncle, and my grandfather went to numerous expos around the country just trying to look at the possibilities for injection molding, and found out there's so many industries that it was necessary for.
Interesting.
And our first customer, we still produce the same products for that we did in the early 80s in night vision products, Litton.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Litton Industries?
Litton Industries.
Okay.
Yeah. And they make night vision products is what we do a lot of their components for.
I remember the first time I was introduced to that name, it was the microwave in 1976, I think it was.
Okay.
I was living in Woodland Hills, California, and my dad brought home my mom this big metal box, had the turn dial timer, and it said, do not put metal in here, which my mom did. She wrapped it. She was, I didn't know tinfoil was metal, and blew up the thing. But Litton Industries that's how I think that name became a household name.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't even know they did microwaves.
Yeah, probably pre you.
Yeah, probably.
Right? That's awesome. So were you guys doing things like nocks and vanes in archery world before that, or through the research that your forefathers did?
Plasti Fletch, founded in 1958, was just plastic vanes.
Okay.
The first production level plastic vane. And then we got into injection molding to produce nocks in the late 70s. That was just where it was the eyes open to the possibilities of injection molding. And even to this day, everything we do in injection molding funds our love for archery. We invest a ton of money into the archery industry, the sport itself, all the organizations and events to, such as yours,
right.
Coming up here for the Prescott Valley Outdoor Summit. Injection molding provides the funds to allow us to invest into those events and the sport itself.
So let's talk about the industry, because I don't know a lot about it. Mm-hmm. Own a few guns, as a lot of us do up here in Arizona.
Now,
always wanted to get into archery and target shooting and even hunting in the future. The equipment looks daunting sometimes, but where's the industry going? Where's the growth? What do you guys see happening?
It's interesting, archery's evolved just an incredible amount, basically since the turn of the century. Technology has changed so fast. I mean, just as long as tech has and software design concepts have evolved, the abilities of the compound bow and now crossbows are just on another level that people that go back in the 90s and 80s and archery was much simpler. So now I think now the human is evolving. We're kind of gotten to a point where I think Matthew's archery owner and founder Matt McPherson put it best a couple of years ago, where we're splitting hairs now in the compound bow world. Technology now to actually make real improvements, it's expensive.
Right.
And you can see that just in bows now. I mean, a high-end bow used to be $800. Say around 2010, now they're $2,000, and performance wise, they're certainly better, but the exponential value isn't there.
Right.
Whether it's the bows are a little lighter, vibration is better, speed, not necessarily any better.
Right.
They might aim better. There's just more thought process, and that's just from experience. But I think now, again, the real growth in archery is in the human. The hybrid athlete, the hybrid outdoorsman, with the influx of, physical fitness being such a big deal to extend your range, extend your health, your abilities. You still have the same guys who, they're going to climb out of their truck and walk 100 yards and climb in a tree stand and sit there all day and eat Reese's Pieces and jelly beans. But especially out here out west, me being one of them, I used to be one of those guys who wasn't in shape, and the love for the backcountry and experiences that you can only get there if you're in shape, good enough shape to get there, is what drove me to get in shape. And that's where archery is headed now.
Right.
You have a really cool organization that kind of started in 2010, but really has exploded in the last 3 or 4 years, called the Total Archery Challenge, TAC. Okay. And they're up to 10 or 11 events nationwide now. And for their first 4 or 5 years, they were just at Snowbird in Utah, just outside of Salt Lake. And that place has exploded. I'm coming from a lot of target basis in archery, and I'm used to the same 1,500 shooters at every event. And it's all competition based, and, sponsorships and sponsor deals and kind of like NASCAR, you know what I mean?
Right.
With the belief of what wins on Sunday sells on Monday. Well, these TAC events, it's a whole different. Nobody's asking for anything free. It is kind of you and your buddies, but it's not like your beer drinking buddies. It's extreme. It's on extreme terrain, long shots, and these guys are here developing themselves. It's super cool to see.
So let's talk about a little bit about the hunting world, because you have a lot of folks that obviously dislike it, but they may not know how important it is from a conservation standpoint. Can you kind of help enlighten our listeners and potential bow hunters, for example, or even hunters? For me, it comes back to COVID. I was never against hunting. I'm just not a hunter per se, but I think it's probably a pretty good skill to learn, especially field dressing. Mm-hmm. My wife and I, for fun, have a goat rescue. And I hate to say it, but I was looking at those goats during COVID when there wasn't a lot of food on the table. I'm like, I got the food, but I don't know how to properly dress this stuff. And I'm thinking I'd like to go out with one of my hunting buddies who hunts, and learn how to field dress in case we ever have an emergency, because that's just practical learning. That's a practical thing to do when you see a problem. Address it so you're prepared, and then move on. Mm-hmm. How important is it to have these taxes and these tags and hunters? How do they contribute to conservation so people know? Well,
hunters are the largest influx of cash and conservationists in the United States and even in the world. I mean, we can talk about the effects in Africa, but just U.S. based, we have the Robertson-Pittman Act, which is a federal excise tax on every hunting piece of equipment sold. We pay an 11% tax. And there's a few exceptions, but for the most part, everything rifle, gun, bow, accessory, we pay an 11% tax on those sales. And it's kind of sad because there's people in the industry who try to avoid that. They try to skirt games and play games with them.
Right.
That's for the betterment of our lands. That's to extend hunting. I mean, that allows the people who represent us in Washington to have the funding and the power to make sure we have places to go to hunt. And not just for hunters. I don't care if you're a trail runner, a mountain biker, into birding. This is what keeps these federally owned lands open to the public, and they're not getting sold to build apartment buildings on.
Right.
You know, this is what keeps national forests open. This is a lot of the funding that goes into it. And then, yeah, you get into hunters when they buy hunting licenses, they buy tags, even your application fees. Even if you don't get a tag, we have to pay an application fee. All of this money, and it's billions of dollars.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of money.
Goes to a percentage that always goes to keeping our lands open and protecting the animals.
That's what I think I want people to understand the most.
Yeah.
I agree with helping people. I think a lot of them understand that those taxes go to help keep open these parks and these open spaces. But when it comes to protecting the species, right?
Well, Africa is a prime example for that. You know, something fairly recent for people to understand the lion that was killed. I don't remember what name they gave the lion. Cecil, the lion that was killed in Africa 5-6 years ago by the dentist out of Minnesota. And for whatever the human's attachment is to apex predators, whether it's lions, cats, bears, there's some strange human attachment to an apex predator, which given the opportunity, they would happily eat you.
Right.
You know, it's fine to kill a pig or a fish or a bird, but something about apex predators. But anyways, when Cecil was killed and that went worldwide news, and they banned lion hunting for a short time and most hunting in Africa for a very short time. All of those animals suffered horrible deaths because they overpopulated very quickly. And then poaching came in because there was no funds to defend the animals. There were no game wardens per se to keep poachers from coming in. Because again, I mean, not so much in the U.S., but in Africa, if you go hunt in Africa, every game species that is taken, all the meat goes to local tribes. It feeds them. It feeds their kids, their families. And it's pure meat. It's not farm raised. People come here now and they go to McDonald's, if that even is real meat, or you go to Safeway and you buy a steak. Well, that was probably farm raised. It's not pure. It's full of steroids and all sorts of stuff. I mean, if you've ever raised chickens on your own, a chicken breast isn't twice the size of your hand.
Right.
There's a reason it's that big. It's not natural.
I just think it's important for people to understand the balance that the hunting world provides in terms of financial, in terms of environmental, and to take that away, what happens?
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's really important when we talk about this kind of stuff, archery, firearms, whatever, because these days, as you know, people immediately go to, the fear angle or the death angle, when really hunters want to preserve these species so they can continue to hunt.
Well, and even then, I mean, you get into those that go, I'm vegan because I don't want to harm an animal. Have you ever paid attention when a combine comes through and cleans a field?
Yeah, it's
every animal, every mole, every rabbit, any animal in that field dies.
Just have a little more common sense. I think that comes down to understanding and knowing, and having guys like you speak more about the facts. We just don't hear about them, right? Yeah. Or people want to be in their silos and not really hear the details of it and how
it's just reality.
It's just reality. And meanwhile, they're going and having a fried chicken or a steak, and you got to wonder how your cow was slaughtered.
Yeah.
Right.
People just got to come to grips with what feeds them. And in any form, things suffer and die. So as a hunter, we provide funds because we want them to have the best possible environment. And yes, as a hunter, we go for fast, clean, ethical kills.
Right.
They're not dying of starvation. And animals don't die of old age. 98% of animals in the wild die from a predator, a bear, a cat, something of that nature. Humans, we are an apex predator as well. We are the apex predator. But our form of killing is very clean, fast and efficient. There's no pain. So to want people to understand the value we bring and that we care more for the animals than they do.
Absolutely.
In the end, we truly do.
So let's get into how does somebody new that's like me that's interested in getting into learning archery, where do I start? Especially in central Arizona. If I live up here in Prescott Valley, where can I start completely from scratch to learn how to shoot a bow, maybe get involved in a group in terms of how then taking that next step, bow hunting? How do I start? So
up here locally, we have one primary archery dealer here called Archer's Choice. That dealer has evolved from a couple. It was PV Archery. We had Mile High Archery. They've all merged over the years, but it's now Archer's Choice, owned by a very good family that moved here recently in the last couple of years. They're a good group.
Okay.
And you can walk in there at any time and they're going to teach you the basics of archery, and they're going to have a conversation with you and want to show you the value and let you test shoot a bow, and then there's other places you can go. There's actually a school across the street here, that over off of 2nd Street that also, teaches archery in its basic form. But most of the time, most people learn about archery from their friends, particularly up here in the Quad Cities area. Everybody knows somebody who shoots a bow, and you can go over to their house, ask them questions, certainly, dozens and dozens of people I have introduced to archery locally just because they come over and want to be involved. And, archery is as much a hands-on word of mouth learning experience as anything. But, Archer's Choice is certainly the first place. If you didn't have a friend and I just wanted to get involved, I'd walk into the dealer there, and they're right off Highway 69, and talk to Zach or any of his employees and just say, hey man, I want to get to know about this. Can I try a bow? And
do they have like an indoor range or an outdoor range?
They have just a little spot you can shoot. They don't have an indoor range yet. Their new facility, they're working on expanding into that. And then if you're looking for a place you can actually have a range, Arizona Archery Club is down off Deer Valley in North Phoenix, another great club, and they do have a nice range, indoor range. You can go try that out as well.
But we want to out in Chino Valley at the school. I know they got that going on.
Yeah, and the schools have NASP. Chino Valley does. AAC has a big NASP program here. Mm-hmm. So for your kids getting involved, you can go out to our local range, Granite Mountain Archers. And they have specific hours when there's people present, but you can check in there. Lonnie Zhang is the president there, and you can contact her. She's actually also my head customer relations and quality control manager.
Okay.
And certainly there's people out there who would love to get you involved as well.
Awesome. So where would you start? Because you got these compound bows, and if I was going to buy my first bow, what is it? What am I looking for? I literally have no idea.
The cool thing about archery is it's scalable. The simplicity of a stick and string is actually still making a comeback, of a recurve or a compound, and just simple stick string, pull the bow back, aim, and shoot an arrow into a safe location. Sorry.
It's okay.
And that's, trad archery and just basic recurve archery is really making a comeback. And for a lot of people, that's a good place to start, But again, even compound archery being so scalable, there's still bows that even new are available for $400 is what we would call a kit ready to shoot bow on RTS. And it'll have everything you need to learn how to shoot, to start the basics. But I still highly recommend getting some instruction from somebody who's knowledgeable and skilled. There's so many people that you get that, okay, here, just step up and let's draw the bow and shoot the arrow. And with no proper instruction, it's really easy for people to just not have the most enjoyable experience. It's fun the first week or two, but then you want to evolve and get better, But then there's also, YouTube is an amazing thing. John Dudley has a really great From Basics, what he calls the School of Nock on YouTube, from Nock on Archery. And you can go through the School of Nock and gosh, now 10 years of different just video by video of things to work on and to grow and improve your form, you know. And there's tons of info on YouTube for that. But it's still, in the beginning, it's always good to have somebody help you with the basics.
Right.
And to get started.
Have you seen an upswing in growth in business because of COVID and the movement to get outdoors in combination with right just before then? This is, I don't know, 2017. I can't recall. Groups like Fieldcraft that started out here. I know Mike's moved on to like Utah and it's just grown exponentially. But we see groups like his, talking about bow hunting and being prepared because you might not always have a firearm, but just the skill itself is a great skill to know. So you've seen a lot of growth because of all these different things that have kind of just intersected at the same time. Yeah.
Like a lot of things in the economy and life and even archery, we see those 7-year waves, right? We had the big spike 2015 from Katniss Everdeen and those movies. I forget what movies those were. Not Twilight.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Help us out here, research guy. Katniss. He's rolling his
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. Thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes things just slip my mind, but yeah, we saw that big spike there in Hunger Games and it kind of dove off there again, right? 18, 19 and kind of things settled down a little bit and we retained some of that. And that's where we saw a big spike from NASP, National Archery in the Schools program. And then, coming into COVID, really everything in the outdoor world, of course, archery, firearms, but it didn't matter if it was ATVs, trucks, campers, or whatever, especially out in the West, golf, anything outdoors exploded, which was great because, overall, we're all outdoorsmen. We want to support each other in every manner. And so we certainly saw a massive spike in the archery industry. Kind of at the same time with Mike Glover and what he's done with Fieldcraft Survival. And you have, mainstream guys like Jocko and Cam Haynes and the biggest voice on the planet, Joe Rogan, joining up with them and John Dudley. And he's just gone headfirst into it and shared his love for the outdoors. Of course, that all just does wonderful, amazing things to boost outdoorsmen.
Imagine Ted Nugent. Doesn't hurt either.
Ted doesn't hurt, but I mean, Ted goes back into the 90s. He was kind of the voice then, 90s, 2000s. Right. And, he has his little spikes where he gets involved, but Ted's pretty extreme, pretty wild. And I would say in some aspects, it's kind of a little too over the top for this day and age, Right. Again, you get into, Cam's a friend of mine. He shoots our products, represents us, but he's just a great ambassador from the aspect of building the outdoor lifestyle, whether it's running or just living life outside and how to make it a part of your life. Up until recently, he had a 9-to-5.
Right.
Forever, he worked for his little local water company and still ran. He was the face of Under Armour Run forever. So just those types of people of just showing how this is just my life. This is, I provide food to my family. Archery it's just a place of relaxation. I start my day every day now. I wake up and within 20 minutes, I'm shooting arrows and watching the sunrise.
How do we get skills like this in front of our school kids? Because I just think, number one, it gets them out when we know they're inside too much and they're on their phones too much. It develops, hand-eye skills and coordination. It then leads to other things, but it's really about being around other people as well. We're involved with the school districts on a variety of different levels. How can we get the industry in front of them and get them out and teach them how to?
Well, ultimately, school districts or not, it starts with the parents.
Right.
It starts with the parents and just cultivating the outdoor lifestyle and the values it brings. I have 2 daughters, 5 and 15, and I've raised them outside. My oldest is a 15, a very accomplished hunter and outdoorsman herself, loves being outside. And she's still a 15-year-old girl that will stay up till 2 a.m. on her phone.
Yep.
but hunting and camping season comes around. That's all she wants to do.
That's awesome.
Because we, as a young child, instilled the outdoor lifestyle and those core memories.
Yep.
And to me, yes, there's things absolutely the schools can do, but it comes down to the parents and us just teaching them the values of it. And, I love hunting, but I hunted for 10 years before I ever harvested my first animal.
Right.
Never stopped me from wanting to do it.
Yeah. My best memories, you say core memories, was my folks taking us to Catherine's Landing, Lake Mojave in the early 70s, before there was a Laughlin, and just being outdoors, camping, water skiing. The water skiing for me led to being around water, which led to learning how to scuba dive and getting my open water certification at 14. This is in open ocean. And it wasn't one of those holiday classes. It was like a 3-month class, and it was conditioning and everything else. And that led to, much later in life, the challenge of becoming a pilot and getting my pilot certificate. It just leads to other things that you just don't know, because it's a challenging skill, right? And it can be physically challenging. But these core memories early and challenging our kids and our families to get out and do these things, I think that's getting lost in all this distraction technology we see, right?
Technology.
Yep.
Get unplugged.
Yep. Get unplugged.
Get outside, get unplugged. One of my just favorite things is take the kids away from Wi-Fi. Take ourselves away from Wi-Fi. I'm just as bad as they can be at times.
I know you get caught up in it. And that's why we created the Prescott Valley Outdoor Summit. And number one is to promote all the different businesses in the outdoors industry, like Arizona Archery Enterprises, and let people know about the different manufacturers that are in the region, but also to get people outside and unplugged, and hopefully they do. We had an app last year for the show. I said, why are we doing an app? We don't need an app. We got a website if they need to see it, but let's just get them outside.
Just come out, walk around. It's not that big of a place.
It's not that big of a place. We're super stoked to have you guys. We really appreciate your participation. Hopefully you'll grow with us as we continue to invest in the Prescott Valley Outdoor Summit. Will you come back again and talk more about your industry? Because you're apparently the guy to talk to. I didn't know who I was talking to at Colt. I really didn't. I just knew when I first ran into you guys at the bar eating lunch last year, just like 2 weeks before the show, because I saw your logo. It's just like, I thought you were engineers, right? Because you had the shop shirts on. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're the guys we've been calling on. I think you guys were in some transitional phases and whatever. And it was our first year, but finally we finally partnered up. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun. And yeah, you actually caught my cousin, James, he's part of my marketing team, and he's also one of my head production supervisor now. And I know you guys connected. And yeah, we were in an interesting transition last year in our marketing phase, and I was in a transition of buying the company. And so my availability was very slim.
Gotcha.
So, but he made it a point to go and see the event. I was actually out of town during the event, and but he made it a point to go to the event and put in a good word to me to make sure we met up. And you had contacted me a couple of times this year, and I was just in one of my busy stretches, and obviously it was meant to be catching me there at Colt again. And
at Colt, yeah.
Yeah. So
it's right across the street from my office, so I kind of get stuck there. It's kind of easy to fall into that place.
I can smell it from my shop. So
I got to keep my window closed. Nick Fisher, President and CEO, Arizona Archery Enterprises. Thanks for coming to TOPO Talk. We'll see you at the 2023 Prescott Valley Outdoor Summit. We appreciate you. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, you bet.
Take care.